Thank you for attending this very important event. My name is Bill Baker. I'm an organizer for Fracked, Ohio. We are a group that supports local communities in protecting their lands, helps to educate on the necessity to transition away from fossil fuels and embrace renewable energies and more sustainable practices. The reason we are speaking today is to announce the formation of a tri-county coalition of grassroots groups, grassroots organizations that have formed in response to Cabot Oil Gas Corporation's efforts to drill exploratory horizontal wells in Richland, Ashland, and Holmes counties. This method of unconventional extraction involves a process of stimulating the wells to produce oil and gas called hydraulic fracturing or fracking. This controversial drilling practice has the potential of changing the rural landscape of north central Ohio permanently, and not in a manner that would enhance the inherent beauty of the land, nor protect the economic boon provided by farming and tourism that brings tens of thousands of visitors to the area each year. I woke up this morning with a raw throat. I'm sure you know somebody that might be going through that as well, so please bear with me. Many residents of this proposed drilling site have had ongoing issues with Columbia Gas in regards to the gas storage fields located below their properties. Columbia Pipeline Group, which includes Columbia Gas Transmission LLC, was acquired by TransCanada Corporation in July of 2016. Since then, TransCanada Columbia Gas has entered into a secret sublease agreement with Cabot Oil to amend the current lease with landowners. Furthermore, Cabot is seeking a new lease from landowners to drill deeper down through the methane storage fields and then horizontally through the shale. In order to acquire the deeper mineral rights and force residents to amend the Columbia lease, Cabot has employed Western Land Services, a land acquisition company specializing in obtaining subsurface mineral right agreements. Western Land Services have taken a strategy of strong-arm tactics to convince landowners to sign and have not been completely upfront with landowners regarding activity in their communities. Due to the escalating situation, landowners have united to educate their neighbors and work towards maintaining local control over their land and communities. The first group that we're going to have speak tonight is the Hayesville community on fracked gas. We have Elaine Tanner and Debra Swimming. Please welcome them.
Thank you, Bill. Hi, my name is Elaine Tanner, and I was approached a few weeks ago. I'm an Ashland County resident. I was approached a few weeks ago about some fracking activity starting in our county, and from there we became Hayesville Community on Fracked Gas. Our mission statement is local farmers and rural Ohio residents joining forces to get the truth out about protecting our community from oil and gas extraction for generations to come. And as my personal statement, my name is Elaine Tanner. As a lifetime resident of the Tri-County area, I find it is my duty as a citizen to let people know what will be should we continue on this path of destruction. This evening I will be representing our group out of the Ashland County, the Hayesville Community on Fracked Gas Group. We are local farmers and Ohio rural residents, as I mentioned, joining forces. My work as founding, now program director for the nonprofit Friends for Environmental Justice helps me help communities wade through the process of being approached by the gas and oil industry and how to survive the blow. No pun intended on that one. Part of my work includes a position as a regional organizer for the Ohio River Citizens Alliance. Our Muskingum Valley watershed flows into the Ohio River Basin. A side note is the Ohio River Basin takes in water into the Ohio River, drinking water for 5 million people, and they take it in from 15 states. So this little piece of Ohio isn't the only problems that we have. As Friends for Environmental Justice, we are a contributing member of ORCA, which is the Ohio River Citizens Alliance, working across many lines to help communities gain strength to stand against these industries, preying on the health and safety of our communities. As fossil fuel extraction in these areas increases, so will the shipping, storage of the radioactive fracking waste, processing chemicals and products by truck and rail. These actions place more threats on other communities along the way. In the end, it's up to us to inform the people that could follow the path of these fracking vertical and horizontal drilling projects, relief valves, compressor stations, and with these massive pipeline projects and gas storage areas being built as this production increases. Time is slipping away. Before we know it, these lands as we know them will be gone. We must inform our communities of these dangers we face, and not if these oil and gas projects fail. It's when. Thank you all for coming out this evening. We appreciate your time and effort to help us move these important messages on damaging extractive practices as we move forward. And Bill, thank you.
You're welcome. Would you say that, Brian?
I'd like to talk, my name is Debra Swimming. I live in southern Ashland County near Perrysville, and I've lived here for 25 years. I'd like to talk about the destruction caused by horizontal fracturing to private landowners and citizens who do not own the oil and gas rights to their land and thus cannot sign leases. People who do not sign the leases face the same danger of wells contaminated with neurotoxins, carcinogens, and endocrine disruptors, even though they will receive no royalties from the resources recovered, and must in addition, if they want to protect their land, pay to have their water wells tested, because the burden of proof of environmental degradation falls on individuals, not on the oil and gas companies. They're required to test water wells within, that is the gas companies, 1,500 to 2,500 feet of the well, but contamination can occur miles from a fracked well. Tests for all chemicals used in fracking can cost more than $1,000 and have to be done several times a year in order to provide sufficient evidence that drilling created contamination. Who has money to pay for all those tests? Leave home if necessary if the water is contaminated, and hire attorneys to fight for them. What working person has the time for protracted court cases? Even when companies provide clean water to families harmed by drilling, they have refused to provide enough water for the animals. The disastrous record of Cabot Oil and Gas is well documented, that in Debra County and Debra Township, Pennsylvania, 33% of water wells were contaminated due to poor construction. Even when people were compensated, the claims took years to settle. In addition to the danger of water well contamination, people who live near roads used by the drilling companies have to put up with the congestion and noise of truck traffic. About 500 truck trips for every frack, and wells can be fracked as many as 18 times. We also face the danger of toxic chemical spills from those trucks in case of accidents. And there will be accidents. Toxic spills as well as criminal dumping have been recorded in every state that has fracking operations. We moved to Ashland County for my job, but we chose to live in the country because I wanted to keep horses. We maintain 10 acres, but we have to do it ourselves. We keep the grass mowed, the fence lines cleared, which is no small task. Buildings and fences, I hope, in good condition. We both have jobs, and we worked hard to keep the place up. The hours add up to about a second job for each one of us. In addition, we've made many improvements over the years, including new roofs on both house and barn, and most recently in 2014 at a cost of more than $22,000. Now we feel that we are forced to sell out, and it'll probably be at a loss. If Cabot drills multiple wells in southern Ashland County, my property, as well as others, will be worth next to nothing, because the rural character of the place will be destroyed. People know that even if the water wells do not become contaminated immediately, toxic flowback can seep into wells many years later. Compressor stations built to process the oil and gas are 6 to 10 acres in size. They look like factories, destroying not only the peace of the countryside because they emit a constant sort of howl from the machinery, but also its aesthetic quality. Furthermore, they emit methane gas, which is a known carcinogen, 24 hours a day. The 2005 Energy Policy Act exempts fracking from accountability under 7 EPA laws, including the Clean Air and Clean Water Acts. And Ohio's environmental laws, considered to be very strict, will not protect landowners because state inspectors are not required to be on site until the end of the process. Even ODNR's literature warns of water well contamination from fracking. Letters sent to landowners from Cabot claim that it values and respects the environment, but Cabot, responsible for contaminating water wells and land in Dimock Township, Pennsylvania, has been accused of numerous safety violations, including pollution of waterways and water well contamination due to poorly constructed wells, according to SourceWatch and EOGAP and several other sources. Claims of royalty payments and job creation do not compensate for threats to health and loss of property values. Pennsylvania's environmental chief, John Hager, described Cabot as one of the worst oil and gas operators. In Harrison County, I've seen the once bucolic countryside scarred with pipeline construction, well pads, and compressor stations. If Cabot has its way, southern Ashland County, one of the most beautiful areas of the state, will become an uninhabitable sacrifice zone like Dimock, Pennsylvania, Pavilion, Wyoming, and nearly all of North Dakota. Thanks.
Thank you, Debra. Next, we have Jim Miller and Jane Moser from the Clear Fork Valley Landowners Group.
Hello. The Clear Fork Landowners Group was formed last week. We and some of you in this room are part of that, maybe not the group, but got the letters from Cabot. So we rushed around and here we are tonight. The Clear Fork Landowners Group with a tagline of Smart Landowners, Safe Land wants to provide this service. Our goal is to protect the land, water, air, and wildlife of the Clear Fork Valley by asserting local control and landowners' rights. By researching proposals by outside interests and strategies of other landowner groups, we will help area landowners to understand their options. We aim to help local landowners make informed decisions about their property so they can enjoy minimal restrictions on the use of their land now and in the future. So, who am I? I'm Jane Moser. My husband and I have lived in the Clear Fork Valley for over 30 years. We chose this area because of its beauty, the variety of outdoor activities all around us, the friendly community of the Clear Fork Valley. We have a small business on our property, and our son is planting an orchard to eventually have a cidery. The health and beauty of our local environment are not only important to our emotional well-being and our physical health, they will continue to also be a factor in our livelihood. When we received the letter from Cabot Oil Gas, and then received copies of our original lease with Columbia Gas and the amended lease from Cabot, we were disturbed by numerous provisions in the amended lease. The permanence of the lease, the totally inadequate protections in case of environmental accidents, the insulting levels of reimbursement, and the loss of control of one's lands were just a few of the provisions which led us to determine that this agreement should be opposed. The more we learned about the handling of waste, the amount of truck traffic on these rural roads, the light and sound pollution which would effectively ruin our community, it became important to form a landowners group to educate and advocate on behalf of the landowners and the larger community. When we saw the disrespectful offer from Cabot / Columbia Gas / Subco, when we saw that disrespectful offer to the Valley landowners, we just had to wonder how much they would respect the land and the community around it once they actually controlled our land. They don't respect us enough to give us even a fair offer with adequate protections, if there are adequate protections. If they can't do that now, why should we believe they're going to protect our land once they have control of it? And they would. So that's why we helped to organize the Clear Fork Landowners Group, and that's why we're here. And if anybody wants more information, we do have an email address, clearforklandowners@gmail.com. Thank you.
And both Elaine and Jane have events planned for next week. Please see them after the presentation if you'd like more information on that. Next we have Advocates for Local Land, and Teresa and Kevin Clark will be speaking for them.
Good evening. Thank you very much for coming out on this miserable evening. We recently joined a group called Advocates for Local Land. And in short, it's working to protect Ashland West Homes land and landowners' rights. Our mission statement is as follows. ALL is a community group of people who advocate for the protection of land and resources. We pledge to protect our air, land, water, and wildlife while promoting the sustainability of our properties. We are stewards who desire to support and educate all about land and landowners' rights. Additionally, we will engage our elected representatives in passing and upholding legislation to protect our rights and land. Advocates for Local Land will work together to protect and enhance the health, beauty, and sustainability of our community. Who are we? I'm Kevin Clark. This is my wife, Teresa. I've lived in Ashland County my entire life. Teresa grew up in Wayne County. We now live outside of the Loudonville area in Holmes County. Again, thank you for all in attendance. We peacefully reside in the beautiful countryside around Loudonville. We've chosen to become involved in this group because we strongly believe that it is imperative to inform and educate our neighbors and the community on the impacts of the extraction activities of the oil and gas industry, which are showing a high degree of interest in our area and are moving quickly to establish their presence. One needs only to visit Carroll County or any other nearby area to witness firsthand these impacts. Our past travels in West Virginia and Pennsylvania provide stark examples of what full-scale extraction practices have done to those regions, infrastructure, aesthetics, and the quality of life itself. As a result, we choose to no longer visit any of those places, as the traffic, landscapes, and general health of those areas have been devastated. Just as one example of this devastation, please research. If you're not familiar with this, please research the life-changing impacts on the local water supplies in the areas where full-scale fracking is being done. Where will the millions and millions of gallons of water needed to frack come from? The resultant toxic water, or flowback, will be poisoned and removed from the water cycle forever. Does our earth really need less water in this day and age? We will not delve into the specifics of those impacts, as there is an exhaustive body of evidence concerning those issues available online for you to view. It is critical that you take the time to research the fracking impacts and to educate and inform yourself and your neighbors.
We do not have the answers, but we do have many concerns and many questions that no one is willing or able to answer. So we simply ask all of you to consider these questions. What do you want for a future for your children and for your land? What will we tell our children and these future generations when they ask, how did this happen? Or why did this happen? What did you do to prevent this? We all make critical choices at critical points in our lives. As the Native American proverb states, we do not inherit the earth from our ancestors, we borrow it from our children. We cannot close our eyes to this issue. That's why we're all here today. That's why we are standing together. We got to pay attention to this. And again, we're so thankful for all of you being here to listen and consider all these issues. Do we care about what was given us? In the end, where will we have to turn if we have destroyed our basic needs for greed? Will we be better off than before if we allow them in here and we take the money? Are we going to be better off? Remember, the golden rule, which many people seem to forget, is not about gold. We cannot drink money. Our family has chosen to become educated on these issues. We will not sell our health and our well-being. Some things are not for sale at any price. Our family is committed to be stewards, not pillagers, of these priceless gifts of land, air, water, and life that we all have been given. We have made it our choices to protect and maintain the beauty and health of our land and all life on it. What will you do? What choices will you make? Please choose wisely. Advocates for Local Land, ALL, which is our group, is here to work together to protect and enhance the health, beauty, and sustainability of our community. We invite you all to join us. If you know anybody in the Loudonville area, we are covering quite an extensive area with these 4 groups that we are forming. We welcome your input, and we would be very pleased to have you join us. Our contact information is advocates4ll@gmail.com. Please write that down if you know anybody or you would like to join us. Thank you.
And the last group to present this evening is the Monroe Township Landowners Coalition. We've got Laura and Dave Graham.
Hello, my name is Lori Graham. My husband Dave and I live and own property in Lucas, Ohio, part of the beautiful Monroe Township. We joined recently with our neighbors and formed the Monroe Township Landowners Coalition, MTLC, and we are working to protect Monroe Township land and landowners' rights. The MTLC mission statement is uniting to protect the historical and environmental legacy of the Pleasant Valley, home to Malabar Farm and many residences, by asserting local control and landowners' rights. We strive to protect our natural resources, air, land, water, and wildlife, by using educational tools and legislative action. By carefully researching proposals to buy outside interest, we will educate and advise local residents on the best use of their properties. We desire to have an inclusive community supported by local people for the protection of all who come here. My husband, chairman of the group, is going to give our personal statement.
I was contacted by Cabot Oil Gas this past October. They wanted to drill an exploratory well on my land. They explained in great detail the process involved in hydraulic fracturing for oil, also called fracking. Once I heard of all the details, I took a trip to Carroll County where fracking for methane has been going on for several years. I wanted to see the impact it had on the landscape for myself. I drove to several well pads. They all were at least 7-acre gravel parking lots with a 30-foot wide access road leading up to them. Tall cyclone fences surrounded the well sites, at least 6 storage tanks approximately 20 feet high, and several condensation tanks. A noisy compressor or generator ran 24/7. After I visited, I explored Google Earth to see the amount of pads and how closely spaced they were. There are pads every 1 to 3 miles, In addition, as I drove around the county, I saw several parking lots full of fracking equipment. All these sites combined made the countryside look like an industrial zone. I looked online at the various stages of fracking and all the heavy equipment that they use. Flatbed semis, fracking rigs, drilling rigs, triaxle brine and water trucks, bulldozers, graders, dump trucks, and fracking tanks on semis. Fracking a well requiring 4 million gallons of toxic water would take 1,000 trips with a triaxle truck. I couldn't imagine how much noise and disturbance this would bring to our peaceful home. This would go on for years. There are over 2,200 horizontal wells in eastern Ohio alone. Transposing that landscape to my township would be devastating. Surrounding our community are many environmental resources already in harmony with us. Malabar Farm, including Mount G's Overlook, Pleasant Hill and Charles Mills Lake, many outdoor educational schools such as Camp Odeokla, Camp Duhop, and the Mohican Outdoor School, and including the Mohican Memorial Forest. We want to preserve and protect all the activities of camping, biking, hiking, hunting, birding, and canoeing that tens of thousands of Ohioans enjoy here every year. We have some of the best water in Ohio, like the spring at Malabar Farm. You can't drink money and repair the damage of industrial invasion. Offers of big contracts, promises of money, and permanent reconstruction of roads and landscapes should not be considered or agreed to without an educated research. I went to visit a few of my neighbors here in Monroe Township to ask their position on Cabot's sublease. I was delighted by the response I received. The vast majority oppose drilling and fracking for oil. They have a passion to preserve this beautiful land. We have united and formed a strong coalition to oppose Cabot. Can't we as a nation leave this beautiful valley alone for all the residents living here and tourists to visit? Let's think about the legacy we leave our children: clean water, abundant recreation, and beautiful farms, forests, and meadows. Won't you join us in our efforts to oppose Cabot Oil Gas? I'm David Grant, Chairman of the Monroe Township Landowners Coalition, and you can get a hold of us at Monroe TLC, Township Landowners Coalition is what the initials stand for, the number 2 at gmail.com. Thank you for your time.
So before you folks sit down, I want to give an opportunity to squeeze in for a good photo. But I also wanted to talk about this map. A big portion, don't just step back.
Right here.
Yeah, you're perfect like that. What these folks have started to do is go door to door and check with their neighbors to see whether they're signing. Western Land Services has been telling folks everyone's signing and you better sign to get the bonus, and your neighbors are all signing. So we decided to quantify that and see if that was true or not. On the map, the areas that are green are folks that are not signing. Yellow are folks that are on the fence, and they've only found 2 property owners that are willing to sign in Monroe Township. So Western Land Services is lying. Thank you folks very much for your courage in presenting tonight. I'll have you take your seats before I make the final statement. Thank you. As they take their seats, I want to introduce a friend of mine. Haven't seen him in a while, Mike Chatsey. How are you? Mike used to be with Energy in Depth, an arm of the Ohio Oil and Gas Association. Who are you with now?
I'm actually in House now, the Oil and Gas Association.
Okay, so some folks asked me if the industry was going to be here tonight. If you have questions, once we close out here, feel free to ask Mike any questions about it. We've had a good relationship in years past, so don't beat up on him. Consider him a friend. And also, I think the way we'll handle it, rather than an open Q&A, if you, any members of the media would like to meet with any of the folks that spoke tonight, or even talk to any of the residents that are willing to speak with you, we'll do that after I close with the final statement. Closing this portion of the presentation, I would be remiss not to mention the battle that residents in Mansfield underwent several years ago in stopping the fossil fuel industry from importing and dumping millions of gallons of toxic fracking waste on the city's north side. The waste stream produced by hydraulic fracturing is the dirty secret behind the profitability of unconventional resource extraction. Millions of gallons of chemically laden radioactive liquid waste are produced from the completion of every well, and the waste is a continuing byproduct of the well as long as it's in production. Not only does Ohio produce its own waste, it also accepts millions of gallons of out-of-state waste for a fee of pennies per barrel. In Ohio, the popular method of disposal for this waste, sometimes inaccurately referred to as brine, is through Class II injection wells, a process where the fracking waste is injected into a wellbore at high pressure and deposited into the rock layers below our feet. Excuse me. In 2011, 2 of these wells were planned for construction in Mansfield's industrial park. Residents became alarmed and took action, engaging local government on the danger this practice posed to the area. Mansfield Law Director John Spahn wrote legislation entitled Environmental Bill of Rights to halt the forward progress of this plan. The Ohio Department of Natural Resources had already issued permits, and the industry was fully prepared to turn Mansfield, Ohio into a toxic waste dumping ground, excuse me. The measure went to the ballot in 2012, and voters overwhelmingly passed the Environmental Bill of Rights by a 2/3 majority. The project was abandoned, and today Mansfield still continues to be a rare example of local control measures being enacted to stop the will of outside corporations. Mansfield is, to my knowledge, the only community to stop this type of injection well in the state. This initiative had a cause and effect that resulted in many of Richland County residents to become more aware of the threats posed from unconventional resource extraction and fracking. The entire state continues to face a grave threat from hydraulic fracturing liquid waste. Senator Skindell has introduced Senate Bill 50, which would prohibit the disposal of fracking waste by injection. And you can find more about this legislation at ohiosb50.org. These landowners are not only interested in protecting their own land, they want to protect everyone else's too. By not signing a lease and not allowing a horizontal well to be drilled, they are not only saying no to Cabot Oil and the negative change to their peaceful rural communities, they are also saying that they will not participate in profit at any cost measures by becoming complicit in creating vast volumes of toxic radioactive fracking waste that would be dumped on another unsuspecting community. For those considering signing a lease, and most especially the individual who will allow a fracking pad on their property, I hope that along with the minimal amount of money that you are receiving, you will also take your portion of the toxic waste and keep it on your property out of respect for your neighbors who not want any part of it. This collaboration by Cabot Oil, TransCanada, and Columbia Gas is not designed to protect the residents and their communities, nor enhance the quality of living in Ashland, Richland, or Holmes counties. It is an unconscionable, greed-driven scheme that would benefit a few far-off unknown persons while destroying the inherent beauty of the Clear Fork and Pleasant Valleys, the Highlands area in Holmes County, the Mohican Forest, along with the farms and residences of regular folks who call this area home and rely on the safe and sensible management of resources to sustain the legacy of the land. I urge you to support these wonderful folks who have made a decision to take time out of their busy lives to care for all of you. Thank you very much. That does end the program for this evening. I believe I spoke to most of the Belleville folks that came beforehand. Please connect up with the appropriate group that you'd like help from or like to talk to. And for the media, I will get those press packages out to you promptly. Thank you for coming today.